Welcome to Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. I am so happy you're here. We have so many questions. We're so backed up with questions, but still send them in, info@ladiestalkshow.com. But we're very, very backed up. So I'm going to try and crank through these right now. So go, Gila, what you got for me?
All right. Thanks for sending in your questions.
Okay.
Emily's asking, my husband is obsessed with his phone. He uses it for scrolling through the news and playing games. Even though I feel angry, I speak to him about it in a vulnerable and soft way. I even put the problem in his lap, like you suggest. He does put it away and spend time with me, but even when he does, I feel second best. How can I become more important in his eyes and more desirable than his phone?
Hey, you had to start off with that one. Come on, give me an easy one. Okay. This is not easy because we're living in a world of addiction. And it kind of happened slowly and then speeded up and speeded up and speeded up. And now it's like everywhere. There's like nowhere you go, except for some very wonderful flip phone people who you're my besties, okay? But it's just everywhere. And there's people who are expert in this. I am not an expert in this. I'm going to give a little bit of hints and ideas, but I'm not an expert in media control and portion control of media. And games is one thing and news is another thing, and then there's all kinds of other yucky things. So it's you have to really go to somebody who's a in this expert, somebody who really knows how to make a difference in this. However, I will answer your question, which is that I mean, this is the only answer I know. I probably should go sit down with somebody and get more, whatever. Anyway, it is a designated time to be together. That's all I can think of. And I know it's been successful. I've recommended it to people where there's a dinner time, phones away, date night, phones away. I know you said you talked to him in a vulnerable way, and you got him to put it away sometimes, but he feels second best. So you need to tell him that. You need to say, okay, I get it, but when the phone's there, even if it's upside down and vibrating, I feel like I'm not with you. And there's a story from the Gemara where this boy needed to be taught something. Was it 400 times, 100 times? Does anyone remember 400 times? Let's just say it's 400. Yeah, they're nodding. I think it's 400. 400. Yeah, he needed to be learned it 400 times. So he's learning one day, and in the middle, someone comes in and says, "Can I speak to you after your class?" And he said, "Fine." So at the end of 400 times, the boy didn't get it. And he said, and the Rev said, "How come you didn't get it?" He said, "Well, with that guy interrupting, I felt like any minute he was going to walk in." 400 times he didn't get it. He didn't understand what was the story. So this is the same thing. And you can tell that story to your husband and say, sometimes, when you say, "Okay, I'm with you," there's the phone sitting there and it gives me that feeling like you're not really with me. Would it be possible? You're putting the problem in his lap, like you said, like we said, would it be possible for us to have blocked out time where your phone isn't even in the room? So that might help a little bit. It might make you feel, and some people's needs are different than others. You might need, if he does that once a week for 20 minutes, you're good. Other wives would need it, every night. When's our 10-minute window? When's our 10-minute? I just need you fully, So that is the only thing from, remember, you're hearing the advice from a non-expert. I'm just telling you of what, if there's softness and kindness in how you approach your husband with it, hopefully he'll agree to it, and that might solve the problem. But if your problem persists, get an expert on it. And there's a lot of organizations that do it. Just need to ask around and you'll find the place. Okay. Good luck to you. Hashem should bench you and all of us with being close with each other and not with our electronics.
I mean, okay, great. Talia's asking, when my husband asks how I am, part of me wants him to know I'm happy, and part of me wants him to know life is hard, so he'll appreciate me. I feel like I'm playing games with him, and it's wrong. How can I stop?
Do you know what she means by playing games with him?
Like she wants maybe validation, so she's fetching a little, and the kids did this today, and job was hard today, so
Right.
he'll appreciate her. But basically, she's asking for more appreciation, is what she needs, it sounds like.
Right. But here's the thing. Here is a simple hack, bulletproof, will work every time. Preempt what you're about to say with what you need. So if you say if you go, oh, and then the thing, the fridge broke down, and then the guy didn't come. He said he was supposed to be there, and I was watching out the window when he didn't, and then I had to race to carpool, and then he came right after I left, and like, and you need that, right? If you're doing that, the husband's sitting there, what did I do wrong? Oh, I should have organized better. Maybe if I made more money, she'd be happier. Well, he is taking it totally defensively and feeling like he did something wrong, and he's not providing well for his wife, and every time you complain, it becomes to him like he isn't making you happy, which is the worst thing you can say to us. Yeah. Worst thing a husband can feel is his number one goal in life is to make you happy. I know a lot of people say, "Are you joking, Leah?" Like, whatever it is. Now it could be thwarted. It could be pushed away. It could be you weren't respecting him, so he doesn't care anymore, and he's not putting effort in anymore. He still cares, by the way. He's not putting, there's a lot of things, but he wants to make you happy. So every time you complain, he thinks he's doing something wrong that is taking away your happiness. But if you preempt it and say, I just need to vent. I'm actually super, super happy with my life. I'm so grateful that we got the rug in the hallway. I don't slip every time I walk into that frame. I'm really, really happy. Throw some stuff on them. Give them some appreciation. I'm so happy that you came home early the other day because I was really frazzled and it was really helpful. Throw some compliments but say, I need to vent. I had a really frustrating day. Don't take it personally. This is not meant for you. This is not meant to say how unhappy I'm not unhappy. I'm frustrated at the moment, but I just need to vent. And if you say that, that's the magic word. And you can tell them, you can print. By the way, sometimes I need to vent. So I'm going to tell you I need to vent. And that way, is that okay with you? And he'll be saying, no, I don't want to hear you vent. And look, I need it. A woman needs it. A woman needs to vent. And, most guys aren't going to say no, but, I need to vent. I just don't want you to take it personally. And I don't want you to think I'm unhappy. And I don't want you to think I'm unmiserable. I just need to vent. So if you preempt it with that, you're going to be good to go. Try it out. Let me know. Info at Ladies Talk Show. Get back to me and let me know how it works out. Okay, good. What else
Okay,
you
I
got for me?
love that advice, the preempting. I'm going to try
Yeah.
it. Okay, Esther's asking, whenever I used to approach my husband about a problem, not even marriage related, instead of him validating or helping me, he would flip it that I've done something wrong. By now, I've shut down and don't bother sharing or seeking his advice. Do you have advice on how I can start sharing with him again without being scared he'll blame me?
Hmm. It's a good question, and I'm really impressed by your insight in being able to see that whole dynamic. It is something you can have a conversation, something like this, listen, I know that I used to share things with you, and then I felt like, it was early days in our marriage, and I feel like you didn't really know me well enough or didn't know me a lot. I mean, if that's true, I'm not making, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm saying something like this, which gives him, like, it doesn't put him on the defensive. It makes him that, oh, I understand where you were coming from and where I was, or maybe I was too, I hoisted all my problems on you. I don't know. I don't know whether it was my fault, your fault. It doesn't really matter. But what I want to establish with you is I want to establish the ability to share my stuff with you and to get your advice because I think you're really wise. I hear your advice you give to other people, if that's true. I hear your advice you give to the kids, if that's true. And I feel like I've got this Gavaldic resource, but I feel like sometimes when I tell you, or in the past when I've told you my stuff, I feel like you blame me or I don't think you do it on purpose. I think it's just like a natural man thing that they do, that men do. And I really want to be able to share myself. Do you have any advice on how we can do it where we can create a whole new vision for what it could be like, not based on what it was, which I think I probably did a lot of things wrong. I don't know what you did. I don't care. Again, we're not blaming. We're not, shaming or blaming or trying to figure out who did what. We're trying to right now. What do you think we can do to create going forward a way where I can get your advice and share with you something like that? It's got to be in your own words, but there's a level of enormous respect and gratitude that I'm trying to give over that you can sort of pick up on that, grab that, and then use your own words to share it with him in a way that he'll be able to hear. Really good question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Shiri's asking, I'm uncomfortable with my weight and looks, and it makes me uncomfortable when I go out with my husband. I know he's not comparing me to other women, but I still feel paranoid. He deserves someone beautiful, and I'm not. Oy. We've spoken about it so many times, and he assures me he doesn't compare. It's a barrier to our closeness, but I can't stop thinking like this. I'm suffering, and my marriage is suffering.
Mm. So first of all, I'm sorry you're suffering. It's interesting because when something else happens to you, right, it gets so aggravating and you're mad, right? But when you do something that's mucking things up or messing things up, it's like a thousand. Like, why did I go then? And why didn't I meet on time? And, I wanted to be at the chassan. And if I had been there at where the chuppah was, then I wouldn't have had to stay the whole night. And it was my own fault because I was 6 minutes late and I missed it. And whatever it is, we'll beat ourselves up till bong, 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 bong. It's almost like I'm very, 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 very sorry that you're suffering. But suffering we put on ourselves is almost the worst. It's like they're not making it's like it's in our own brain. So it's very hard to get out of that. And to be honest with you, I'm not an expert. I'm not a licensed clinician or whatever, but I do know that there are books on CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a evidence-based therapeutic module that you might look into that because again, especially if your husband is reassuring you that he's fine and whatever, whether he is or he isn't or whatever, is irrelevant. This is something in your own brain that needs to just shift. And part of the issue, please forgive me if I'm saying anything that might be feel insulting. I don't mean that at all. But I will say that the more somebody is involved in reading magazines and a certain kind of romantic books or watching anything, either movies or TV or something. The more someone is the less boundaries a person has to his to their mind the more that stuff just seeps in without wanting to. They never show, if they show something, it's always with somebody who's really beautiful, and then our mind can't help it, but we're like, oh, she's prettier than me, she's more beautiful than me, she's whatever. And the fact that you said my husband deserves a beautiful wife, what are your insides like? Like if you had to measure up your insides of whether you do kind things for him, whether you're menschy to people, whether you are, doing your hardest to take care of your mother-in-law or your mother and who just broke her leg or whatever, and you're running over and at great agmas nefesh, I don't even know how to translate, at a great sacrifice to yourself, and you're taking care, who are you inside? That's how you're measured by God. That's how you're measured by God. Your outside is just the accoutrement that makes your life easier or harder, in terms of, if you're very, very overweight, then you may not be able to do the chesed because you can't run up that hill, or you can't, or it's too much for you, or you get exhausted easily, or I don't know. I'm not a judge of this. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise, weight loss, but uh, the issue is that what you are measured by in Hashem's eyes is the actions that you do and the thoughts that you have that are kind and that are menschy. Um, and if you're seeing yourself only from the eyes of how you look physically, that's a mistake in thinking. That's an error in thinking. It's a you're on the wrong track. You need to pick yourself up and move over here. And that could be just by reading CBT books or having an insight that, that's true. And every time I'm going to think about my body, I'm going to think, well, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person, like that. That could work. Or you need to go to a therapist and try and get your self-esteem in line with reality, because your self-esteem doesn't have to do with what you eat. Your self-esteem has to do with who you are in your life and what actions you take that show a mensch, and that you're growing towards being more mensch. And let's say you are angry, but you're less angry than you were a year ago. You're working on it. Are you on the growth curve? Are you trying to fulfill your potential? Are you doing chesed? So that is the measure that you need to be in the utmost importance in your mind. And hopefully making that shift will help you to grow in this area. And if you can't do it yourself, which I think would be hard to do it yourself. I think there's a 75% chance you need to go talk to somebody, either Rebbitzin, who's really good, or a older aunt, somebody, or a paid therapist who, and they have student therapists, so it's less expensive in sliding scales and different agencies. So, but a firm therapist can really help break you out of that. Okay, I wish you the best of luck. More power to you. Okay, what else you got for me, Gil?
Okay, great. Ruti's asking, my husband had a difficult childhood. I can see how certain things his parents did to him, he is doing to our children. For example, always criticizing or putting down their ideas. He won't acknowledge it, and he thinks therapy is a waste of time. I'm concerned for my kids.
Wow, I hear. I hear. The issue is it's almost not your business, right? So, like, I mean, he's your business, but changing him and fixing him and getting him therapy and getting him over those things is it's not your job. Now, how it affects your kids, first of all, you just have to know one thing, and this is the bottom line. If you take care of your husband, your Hashem will take care of your kids. Just take care of him. Just take care of your husband. Just hold him close in your heart. Just make that your number one priority in your life is take care of your husband, and your kids will be fine. They might still have this dysfunction thing that he got from his parents and whatever. They'll be fine if you take care of your husband and have shalom bayis. So that's the ground that we're walking on that you have to know. But in terms of having him, shift the dysfunction into being, better for your kids, basically raising your kids better, your key here, the most important thing is to bolster him up for everything else you can bolster him up for. So let's say he does that and he's harsh with the kids, but then he remembered to change the light bulb in the in the pantry, and he invited people who he didn't really like, but he felt like it was the right thing to do. A neighbor that he didn't really like, and he said, "Let's have them for Shabbos. It's the right thing to do." So anything he does that you can praise him for, shower it on. Shower it on. People do not question compliments. They don't say, well, what do you really want from me? It's not just showing it to him. When you're going through the action of appraising somebody and telling them how wonderful they are and pointing out all the things they do wonderful, it sparks a flame inside, internally in you, that has a genuine pouring of love and appreciation to your husband, and that can shift ancient dysfunctional patterns, meaning whatever it was that his parents were critical and whatever, and they did that to him. If you are sharing him with the opposite and pouring it, like literally, not, let's say you're complimenting him once a month. Now it's once every hour. And it's like, what has got into you? You're like, I just realized how lucky I am to have you. He's not going to question it. Just keep pouring it, pouring it, pouring it, and maybe that'll fill up some of the the pit, the hole that's missing in his life. Maybe that will help him to heal. So that's always going to be a good go-to thing for you to do. And just don't worry about the kids. They'll be fine if you shower and pay attention to your husband. Hatzlacha, Hashem should bench you.
Okay, Rifki's asking, I totally get that the house is the wife's domain and it's not a partnership, but what happens if the wife is just useless in the home and makes a great living? Is it okay for the husband to take over the home if he's better at it?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think it's a question for the Rav. I think if he does do that, and they have like a house husband or whatever these newfangled things are, I think that it depends on how it's handled. If she is able to have him do all the logistics of running the household, but she is to say, all the bracha, if she's to know this and to acknowledge this, all the bracha in the home is from you, dear, right? That he is the one that, even though she's making a great salary, the bracha for getting that job and the bracha for continuing in that job is all from her husband 100%. That's what our Masorah tells us, right? From Har Sinai, okay? If she's able to do that and to not only say it and feel it, but to know it deep in her heart, like so deep that she is grateful to him for bringing all bracha into their home. I think, and she's to be able to show him their respect. I think it can work. It depends, but it depends. There's a lot of uh, not drawbacks. What's the word I'm looking like? It's fraught with pitfalls, of like, like she rolls her eyes. You didn't do the diaper right. You didn't, you know what I'm saying? A woman has a natural, as we know, and again, I could get in trouble for saying this, but in Mitzrayim, what did they do to torture the Yidden? They made the men do the women's jobs and the women do the men's jobs. And wait a minute, we're equal. No, equality is, we're trying to go from an equality-based marriage, which is a big fail, to a Torah-based marriage, which is a 3,000-year-old track record of success. So the bottom line is that it could work, but it's got the pit holes. And as long as the wife has a deep understanding that all bracha comes from her husband, it should work out.
Okay, Gabriella's asking, I've heard on your shows before that a wife cannot be a husband's mashgiach. What can she do with the real deep desires for a more toradik home? What can she do with those feelings to avoid being resentful? Amazing question.
Yeah, yeah. So it I get this question a lot, like, Leah, I'm not supposed to tell my husband what to do, but how do I make my husband learn more? How do I make my husband, grow in Yiddishkeit? I want to grow, I'm at a different level than we're at different levels, the kids and da 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 da. What do I do? And the answer is there's only one thing a woman can do, and that is to be the receiver for his Torah. So the first thing I ask question when this comes to me is I say, excuse me, when your husband's giving a Devar Torah, what are you doing? She says, I don't know. I'm doing the dishes. I'm bringing the fish out. I'm bringing, what are you doing? And the answer is that when your husband's giving a Devar Torah, you should be doing one of two things. Either you're listening to your husband's Devar Torah, or you're evacuating the house because it's on fire. Those are the only two options. Okay. So what does that mean? That means when a woman receives her husband's Devar Torah, receives his Torah, she's rapt attention, listening. What are you? Oh, and why is that? And I didn't understand that last part. Can you repeat it? That's what a wife is doing. Now, I do have women say, Leah, I wish my husband gave a Devar Torah. Okay. I hear that. Any Torah that comes out of your husband's mouth, like you sit there and you're holding a spoon, you're like, I stuck this milkshake spoon in the cholent. What can I do? And he says, oh, yes, it's wooden. You have to throw it away, right? Or whatever, if that's the answer. Everyone holds differently. Whatever you hold, he gives you an answer. You say, okay, fine. And you open the garbage. It's a $50 spoon that you got for your wedding. Bing, in the garbage. This is your listening to your husband's Torah and honoring his Torah, no matter how it is. If one of the kids, says something and he says, oh no, that wasn't King Solomon, that was, this other person or whatever, you go, oh wow, not in a gross way, not in a condescending way, not like you're trying to placate him, but if the more a woman is the receiver for their husband's Torah, the more Torah he needs to go to base medrash and bring into the home or read a book or whatever. So that's it you can do. The rest of the time, you're duct taping. Okay. You're saying nothing. You're not, you don't say anything, just let him be however he is. And your job is to receive any Torah he gives you, and you yourself, without being, taking on every chumrah that is known to mankind, you yourself do things more spiritual. And that might mean, that, what's being more spiritual? When your husband's upset and saying annoying things, putting duct tape on and being silent and just, I'm not saying being a schmata. It means just giving him space to express himself. Later, you could say, how you said that a little bit hurt my feelings. If you don't mind, what I'd love if you just said, I'm sorry, I love you anyway, or something like that. Or, in a situation like that, I wish you'd handle it this way. Whatever it is, it's not like you have to, forever, whatever. But being a mensch to your husband, that is that is a part of being spiritual, is being kind, being thoughtful, being caring, doing chesed, being a mensch. And if you work on that, you'll see your husband will grow spiritually. And you may not see it exactly. And these things are slow processes, but Hashem should bench you that it should go well and that you should have a lot of hatzlacha in it. Okay. Do we have time for one quick last question?
Yeah. So, Tamima asked, I know my husband wants me to be a little more fashionable, but we don't exactly have the finances for me to get a new wardrobe. I do my makeup, but truthfully, I need a new wig and clothes. Any suggestions?
Hmm. Let's see. It's interesting that he wants her to be more fashionable, but he doesn't, they don't have the finances to do it. I'm wondering where that pressure is coming from. Maybe his sisters-in-law, maybe other people have, finances that he's looking at and wishing they were more like him, them. Um, I mean, the only thing I can think of is, I don't know whether you work full time or whether, your husband works full time. I don't know on any of those details, but there are a lot of things a woman can do to get new wardrobes and get new shaitels that are a little unconventional and a little maybe uncomfortable. And that is to put an ad in anonymously or have a friend put an ad in saying, does anyone have an old shaitel that's old to you but new to me or something like that, that they'd be willing to donate? That's one way. And then it goes to your friend and your friend gives it to you. Another thing you can do is you can, for clothes, you can say, I'm collecting. You can either go to thrift shops and buy used clothes, which some people find gross, but I know a lot of people who do it, and that's one thing is just buying used stuff. The other thing is putting an ad in and saying, a woman size, 14 needs Shabbos clothes. If you have any left in your closet that you haven't worn in a while, call this number. And again, maybe it's easier or more comfortable to do it through a friend getting that kind of stuff. And the last idea, and I'm just thinking of logistic ideas, is that you could go to you could say to a friend, um, if I do carpool for you, I'm picking my kid up anyway, and you live around the corner. If I do carpool for you, I'm trying to just earn a little extra money. Would it be worth it for you for X amount of dollars a week to just do that so that I want to get some new clothes? And she'll be like, oh, really? Wow, that's all I have to do is give you, what X amount of, whatever. And then you could have a little bit of side income, something like that. I'm just being creative and in different things you can think about that you can do that could help with that situation. It's not an easy thing to feel like everyone else has a new wardrobe except you, and you don't really need a new wardrobe to feel great. You just need a couple of outfits, a couple of outfits, and again, a new shaitel. So the other thing is if you've been you may have shaitels in the back of your closet that you haven't worn forever, and you could bring them out and see if that, try one of your old shaitels that you shaitels are very funny. They, all of a sudden one that you like, oh, looks horrible. And then you're trying to like, why did I never wear this? So no, maybe. Anyhow, okay. This is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We're done for the day, but I just want to say your homework for the week is one time this week, do a little bit of self-care. And whether that's coloring in a coloring book, whether it's, instead of like working up until you go to bed, saying, okay, I'm stopping, instead of stopping at 11 o'clock, I'm stopping at 10:30. And from 10:30 to 11, I'm reading the pile of magazines that are on my nightstand, that I'm giving myself that pleasure. So go ahead, do one nice thing for yourself. This is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. See you next time.